Welcome everyone to another edition of Conversations with the Universe. I'm your host, Monica Carless from Vancouver Island, Canada. And today I am very excited to speak to my friend and colleague, visual artist, Gaia Orion. Hello, Gaia.
Hi, Monica. Nice to see you.
Nice to see you. I'm so used to you calling me by my spirit name, Coyote.
Yeah,
So it's very
it felt
weird.
weird. It felt weird saying Monica, just
You
saying.
can just call me Coyote.
Yeah.
It's just better between us.
Okay, let's do that.
Um, Gaia is somebody that I met a few years ago when I was looking for an illustrator for a children's book that I had written, and she stepped up to the plate so beautifully, and we have formed a wonderful friendship that has lasted throughout the years. And my moving away to the other side of Canada, Gaia, I would like to read your bio first, just so people know who you are, and then we'll take it from there. Is that okay?
Yeah.
Yeah, wonderful. Gaia has gained international recognition by participating in many worldwide projects that are working towards constructive world change. She has exhibited in Paris, Moscow, New York, San Fran, and Toronto, as well as in Mexico, Colombia, Spain, Germany, Hungary, and Bali. Wow, I didn't know that.
I worked hard.
Growing up the first 7 years of her life, mostly barefoot in Africa, provided Gaia with the foundation for her love of nature and an aspiration for living free. She studied and graduated in Paris as an architect before her adult life took her to the forest in Canada, where I met you. Her paintings concurrently started to emerge as she found her way back to the wild. Gaia has built a successful career in a short 10-year period, and now is also a creativity coach and business coach, as well as a mentor for anyone willing to ignite their creativity or their art career. And you also have a podcast, which is
Yeah,
amazing,
that's
which
so
we'll
new
talk
actually.
about more at the end. And I just want to go back a few steps to when we met. And I was so fascinated by your determination to create a life for yourself as an artist. And at that time, I didn't really know anybody who was doing that. I didn't know anyone who was, I mean, I knew a lot of people who wanted to do that, myself included.
And you have since then.
Thank you.
Yeah.
But I didn't know anyone who had successfully done that. And because I see myself and other artists as people who are incredibly sensitive and for whom marketing and putting themselves out there is actually quite difficult, I was very inspired by your journey. And so I'd like to hear a little bit about that, how you began that journey. And actually, you posted something yesterday, maybe, about like the first things that you and your partner, Dolphin, did together as, you know, creating art for in terms of creating a lifestyle for yourself. And I just thought, wow, how appropriate. That's what we're going to talk about.
Yeah, that photo I posted is so precious. My husband had just quit his job a few weeks before. We had just 3 babies, 14 months old and twin girls right after. So the twin babies were 3 months old. He quit his job. Like, we just talked the whole night and we're like, no, you know what? Like, if we continue, we know life is going to be shit. You hate your job. We
Yeah.
don't like it. And it felt like the only choice was to quit and jump into the unknown. It's those moments you cannot explain. Like, people say, oh, you were so courageous, but it didn't feel like courage. It felt like desperation. And it felt like, okay, what is the worst that can happen? Now, I have to mention, we were very fortunate to rent a big farmhouse to his parents. So our rent was like $300 a month or something like that. So that really, we had the support of family, probably not, certainly not emotionally. I don't think they supported our decision, but at least, we were supported in that material sense. And from that, so that photo, it was like a church sale before Christmas, and we just took anything that we had like created was a hand, some t-shirts that my husband had made, sure that he had died and I had painted over. And then I started my art at that moment, and I was painting one fungus that we found in going for walks in the forest. And they were like really funky little drawings, paintings, really colorful. There was still, I think, the spirit of what I do today, that I was reflecting on seeing that photo, how actually those two elements is what stayed with us that whole time. The clothes and then the art, and that's how we've sustained. We've become two, successful entrepreneur with our artistic talents. It's been a learning journey. It's not, I think there's a lot of skills to do to learn to be successful as an artist. And we didn't know we were entrepreneur, and I think we just didn't have a choice. We had kids we had to feed, and that's kind of got us out of our, the couch. And we just, when it didn't work, we just tried something else. And 20 years later, I mean, I think it was 3 years later where we were very successful, so successful we had to sell one of our businesses. And then, yeah. I don't know what else can I say about this journey. That what do you want to hear?
Well, I want to kind of go back to that first nugget of gold that I heard in your talk just now, is how you guys stayed up all night and had that conversation. I think that a lot of people, when they feel inspired by something, they do, have a conversation with themselves or with their partner. But it doesn't necessarily take it to the next stage where you actually do something about it, because there's going to be a lot of fear. Like, how can we both not have regular jobs? How can we both honor the artist in ourselves? How can we honor what we want to put out to the world, like the medicine that we're bringing to the world? How can we put that out and still feel secure? And you had small children, so that was like, when you told me that story, the first time I heard that story, I was so very encouraged that it is possible for people to create that. And the thing is, I feel that you really drew to yourself that opportunity to rent that farmhouse. Like when you step into your purpose, doors open, certain doors open. Would you say that that's true?
Well, yeah, I've been saying that a lot, but the thing is that the more, I think this is how it goes. I don't want it to be a sort of like magical, esoteric saying. I'm trying to understand things exactly as they are and not spray a whole bunch of new age BS on it. Yeah. So this is how I see it. When you're stuck, let's say, in a job you don't like, you have a life you don't like, or you're with a partner you don't like, that takes so much of your energy that you just don't even have the space, like the emotional space and the physical space, to see that there is another way to be. So I'm not telling everyone to quit their job, but that's what happened for us. Once we quit our job, basically we were in front of infinite potential. And it's amazing. Since then, I've realized, so, you could make it a sort of like law of the universe, that the number of people I have met along the way that are artists, artisan, authors, and that have made that step, it was very similar stories. They had a corporate job and they quit and they wanted to be a potter. And it's like, yeah, it works, because everything is out there for you to do it. There are a lot of people that are doing it. So my question is, why on earth do you think that you can do it? Why do you think you specifically does not have access to those skills and those tools that are out there? So by looking at what others are doing and giving space. And then the other thing that I think is important to mention is for the first few years, like, we had nothing. I remember going in the grocery store, buying one tomato. I wanted to make falafel and pitas for my family. And I was like, oh, the cheese was like $7. And I didn't buy that cheese. I was like, oh, we're not going to have cheese on our pitas tonight. Like, I can't even imagine that state of mind, you know, with the abundance we have now. And when I say the abundance we have now, like, I'm not driving my Corvette or anything. I think in North America, everyone, you know, is so abundant. We have so much. So, you know, maybe you have to let go a few square foot, live somewhere a bit further than downtown. Maybe you might have to let go some of the luxury, but then the luxury you're going to bring in your life is time and quality of everything that you're doing, quality of the relationships you're going to create. Because when you live that life that, you know, is from your heart and what you really want to do, then those people that are doing that or that are supporting that in you are starting to surround yourself. And a lot of us, when we don't know that in universal infinite potential, and we live that, I don't want to judge, it's not in this term that I'm saying, but we live that crappy life, like the life that we're not happy with, then we're also surrounded with people that are just kind of like making this a comfort zone. And so yeah, it will take a bit of discomfort, but all for the better.
Yeah, I really, really hear that. And I know because, well, we lived in the same area when along this gorgeous river where you are now back to. I know you moved for a short period, but what I saw in you was your love for your surroundings, your love for the nature that held you while you were, you know, creating your art, and you really committed to yourself. For one, you committed to your dream, and you committed to making this work no matter what, and you were willing to suffer the discomfort, which I think that's the sticking point. I think for many of us, it's like, what will I have to give up in order to make my dream come true? And when people say, I want to live off my art, or I want to, like I always said, well, I would like to earn my living by my pen, writing, you know, but there are certain things that I know for myself, I wasn't willing to give up, you know, and my journey was longer. My journey was, you know, I had to come to that place where I was willing to give up more in order to grow into the person that I needed to be, so that my art could be what it could be. So, you know, I was really inspired. Like every year I saw you progressing, and it wasn't really that incremental. Like it was, I saw you coming with bursts of, you know, bursts of growth. And then all of a sudden I'm seeing Gaia on the world, you know, stage with her art. And I was like, what the fuck?
Yeah.
How did that happen?
Yeah.
Because I mean, we're just seeing, like when we're watching a creative, we're seeing them through our own lens, for one, and we're only seeing certain moments of their lives. So I'm sure that there were moments where you and your partner were like, ay.
There still is. Oh my gosh. Last few weeks, you know, I had a morning, I cried all morning. I'm like, oh my gosh, I get it why people don't want to be an artist. This is so hard.
Yeah.
I'm not kidding. Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, it's a very vulnerable. So what you're saying, what I think is important, like we've talked about, like the practical thing about like quitting our job and giving up some luxury maybe to bring this life into our space. But it's also, I think, yes, the determination to make a living from our art, but really, I think the most important was a determination to live a life worth living, to live a life that I'd be proud of. And I was happy, like personally, because I think what takes you to the next level is discontent. Like, how discontent are you with how you're feeling right now or how your life is? And when it's just become so unbearable, that's usually the, you know, the engine, the burst for that next step. And that just, you know, it never stops because we can always grow. It's not like, wow, now I just reached that state, like, cool, no, there's so many areas of my life that I feel discontent, and I think I can grow and I can be better professionally and personally. You know, I don't like when I'm grumpy and bitchy and all of that, and it still happens a lot. So I have to work at that, and I think the more I work on that, then kind of like naturally, like freeing those little part of myself, then that being that wants to flourish just naturally emerge. So there is hard work, but there is also this just natural movement from the inner personal work and intention of wanting to be more at peace, more present, more gentle with myself, with the world, with, yeah, it's a journey.
And so, you know, I've been asking different speakers what they felt sovereignty was. And I wonder what sovereignty means to you as an artist, but also as a woman. And the other part of that question that I'd like you to consider is um, how this sovereignty of yours evolved within a partnership and within your family, if that makes any sense, that question.
Yeah. No, it's a really good question. I think sovereignty, I'll talk sovereignty with my art practice and then sovereignty in my relationship.
Okay.
So with my art practice, after 15, 20 years, I'm just starting to feel that. And I always think it's very fascinating. We're very fortunate when we're creative because our work is a mirror and reflection of our personal journey. So a couple of years ago, I painted this woman called She Flourishes. She's this tree with those deep roots, and she's just an explosion of rainbow leaves all around her. She's just quite wide open. She looks confident. She looks like she's just doing it. And just doing that painting changed me. It was before I did this big solo show in Paris. It was my second time being there. For some reason, in that exhibition, I really stepped into my shoes. For 2.5 months, I was traveling all over France, giving workshops every weekend. And I think until now, I was kind of always playing it down. Like I thought, you know, if I just be myself and just do what I do, something, I wasn't there yet. I was kind of holding back, saying, oh, I'm so fortunate to have this talent. It's not really me. It's a gift from God or good goddess or whatever. And then like when I did that painting, it brought to me that sovereignty you're talking about, that no, fuck that. I did that. This is me. Like, I also worked really hard. It's like half, you know, half is like, yeah, it's a gift. It's a set of things that my DNA came up with, my karma, whatever you want to call it. And half is like, I've worked really hard, you know, for those images to emerge as they are. And the feeling that people feel when they look at my painting, it's, you know, I live in a pretty peaceful life. I live in a beautiful spot. I work at my life with my husband, with my kids, with myself. And that is transmitted. And all the artists that transform, you know, subtly people when they see their paintings, I know they have a really, really deep engagement into their personal growth. So that's the sovereignty with my art. It feels good. As a woman, I think there's an age thing too. You know, I'm 46, I'm entering premenopause. I feel, okay, now I can kind of rest from the fruit of my work and I don't have to work so hard, and that feels good. And I have lots to share. So with, in my partnership, it's been a journey because I came from a family that is pretty conventional. My dad is like this pater familia, you know, Catholic, or holding the family, and women in my family don't really have a voice. And so I grew up with that. And even though I have the most, you know, understanding, gentle, kind, wise husband, I see how in so many ways I was still behaving in ways where I was a little girl. I wasn't good enough. I was lesser than him. I'm not as smart, not as wise, not as, plus he's older than me. So, you know, I mean, he does have 14 years ahead of me. of doing his own personal growth. He also started earlier in his life than I did. So I give him the credit that he's been my teacher in many ways, but that he's never ever put me down or considered me lesser in that way. It was him pointing out, like, Gaia, how can you say that? You see, like, you're teaching women, you have those super empowering images in your art, and you just told me, like, oh, I can't say that. You could say that because you're smart, you know, but not me. Literally, he just, like, spot on get me on those very, very subtle ways that I put myself down. So that's, you know, just everyday work too, because this is when you have those behaviors in everyday life, they also, you know, go into your sex life, into every aspect of your relationship. And the more you become this sovereign woman that will live the life that she wants to live in respect of herself and others, the relationships become so much deeper, and the making love is just get better and better and everything. Yeah, I mean, I'm not saying we have it all figured out. We still have our moment where you know, we never know if we're going to be together until the end of our life. It's been 25 years. When we hit those knots, somehow we figure them out and then grow from that, and just the relationship become more and more interesting. I think it's a value of having one partner and growing with that partner over so many years. Seeing the progression and how you can peel the layers, because it's always the same shit that comes up. So you can kind of like go through that faster because you recognize the patterns, and then you heal deeper. You heal deeper.
Yeah, that's very interesting, because I'm also part of a long-term relationship, 25 years, and I appreciate the friendship. And I mean, I can see the friendship that you and Dolphin have developed over the years. And you guys have had similar struggles because you're both artists. So you really understand like what the other creative in the relationship is going through, which I can imagine would be not that easy. But that friendship that you develop over the years, the trust and the ability to come back to each other for wisdom is really, really wonderful. And I think that as artists, a lot of artists have very tumultuous relationships. One, because we have tumultuous relationships with ourselves as artists. We have the same relationship with our art, and then we have the same relationship with our partner. So I think that, like, as you said, in your sovereignty in your art, the moment that you realize that, yeah, this came from me, and this was something that I birthed, and I can be proud of this, and I can actually stand in my own light and say, I am actually quite wonderful. Thank you very much.
You know, the people that I look up to, and the main guy is Martin Luther King. I was looking at part of his speech this morning, and geez, the guy's not going halfway. You know, those are the people I aspire, to be. They're my light. They're like, they move me so much. I look up to them because, it's not selfish and narcissistic to say, like, I want this confidence, not because I want to like rule the world and be on top and whatever. No, yeah. I want it because for me, because you can feel he's free. He's not afraid of anything. He knows he can die with what he's saying, and he's doing it. Like, what can be better of living that life where you're passionate, you're speaking about what you really believe in, and what you live the life that, you walk the talk, and you feel all that. yeah, that's sovereignty.
I'm really feeling that. Thank you. And really being able to tap into that part of ourselves, the free part of ourselves, the part that doesn't judge, our own talent, or the part of us that is really connected to what our values are and what it is that we want to express in the world. Like, who am I? A lot of times our art really expresses who we are. If we allow that part to come out into our art. But I think that what is fascinating about creatives is that they're creating that sense of freedom and that sense of peace and love in the world through their art, and we're so drawn to that. I'm drawn to other creatives because I want to feel that energy. I want to be inspired. And I think that a lot of what's happening in the world that isn't wonderful is because our hearts and our souls are uninspired. So I think that, well, the other day I made a little meme where it said we're either making art or we're making war. And then I had a little discussion with myself about that, that we're either living through our intellectual mind, which can be really influenced by the global unconsciousness, or we're living through the heart. And, when we're living through the heart, we're creating amazing art, not only with, the things we produce physically, like our writing or our painting or our singing, but also what we produce of ourselves, when we're living through the heart. So, and I've always seen that in you, Gaia. I've always seen you being heart first. I appreciate that.
Thank you. Thank you.
So where can people find you when, if they're looking to find you?
On my website, GaiaOrion.com. I also have 3 other websites.
Okay.
To have this podcast that discusses art for a peaceful and flourishing world. I invite artists of all kinds and art professionals to bring together artists that are working from the heart and helping make this planet a better place. I feel art is, what creates culture, and we need to know what kind of art that our culture wants to see right now. I need to move forward. So that's what I'm talking about. I also do creativity corporate coaching for modules in companies and teams on a whole bunch of various subjects using creative tools. So that's a lot of fun. And I also do art, career, and creativity coaching. So that's something that I'm just I think I was doing it for free for years. Every time I had young artists coming to me asking me, oh, what do you think about my drawing? Or how can I do this? How do I do my printing? So now I have a certification, so I just get paid for doing what I was doing for free naturally, which I love doing and love sharing. I want people to do their art, to be successful with it. It's the best they can do for themselves and for the world. So that's what part of my whole journey. I think I'm much more than an artist. I realize I'm a teacher. I have a life that, can inspire others. And I love painting, but I love teaching just as much as I love painting. So my time is, balancing all of those different facets of what I like doing.
Yeah, I love that. I love that you came to understand that you are a teacher and a mentor as well as an artist, and that there can be a balance in that. I found that too in my own life. I evolved into that. So, and that has been really a huge blessing to me just as a human being, to know that my art is not just for myself. I can help others with creating art. So you, like, somebody can come to you and you will help them to unfold into their artistry and unfold into their empowerment so that they can see a future for themselves. That's what you do, right?
Yeah, I also help. I actually have an author and friend that I help, and there's so many areas of life. Like some artists needs more emotional. They have such lack of confidence. It's so tragic inside, and it just needs, the love and the encouragement. And some other artists, they got that down. They just need the tools and the skills to you know, make their website looks much better, and find like what are the gems that they need to bring out, and how do they need to present themselves, what could they do to bring more revenue as an art. So it's actually quite a wide array of, you know, stages and states and skills and tools that I work with.
Well, thank you, Gaia. I so appreciate you as a woman, as my friend, as a colleague, and as a creative. And thank you everyone for joining us and for listening to our little chat. And we'll be back again with another edition. And for now, I say happy November. It's November 1st today. Thank you.